Hello, hello, hello. I'm so very excited right now because this is the very first episode of my Dear Diary Extended podcast. Yeah. It has been a long time coming. So many people have asked me to finally make a podcast, so here we are. The premise behind this entire podcast is pretty much going to be me reading my real, authentic Dear Diary entries, which I call the extended versions because Instagram forces me to have a limit when it comes to how many characters I can put. So I have to condense my Dear Diary entries. So now I will be reading you guys the full Dear Diary entries, and then for the rest of the episode, we will be diving deep into the topics I discuss, the philosophies I believe in, and talking about some issues that we may not like all the time, or even talk about. But I'm super excited to have you guys here with my journey. This is the very first episode. I thank everybody who has encouraged me to do this in the first place. And let's get straight into our Dear Diary entry for today. Dear Diary, it's not even about the attention. It's not even about the aesthetics. It's the lie I can't stand. The one that wraps itself around everything and sells emptiness like it's empowerment. This culture we live in, this curated existence, has taught people to trade presence for performance, to become actors in their own lives, to perfect the illusions of freedom while remaining emotionally locked in rooms they refuse to admit exist. We wear smiles like armor. We post gratitude while silently grieving. We show off success while privately disintegrating, and we call it strength. But the truth is, we're tired. Tired of pretending to be unbothered, tired of acting like we don't crave touch, tired of building brand identities while our real selves gather dust in the background, tired of talking about self-love in captions while avoiding our own reflections. And what's wild is, I've seen what's behind the curtain. I've been around the billionaires. I've heard the boardroom talk. I've witnessed firsthand how many people to pretend to be self-made while secretly leaning on teams, on family money, on entire communities they won't credit because it doesn't sell as well. I've seen the loneliest people smile the widest. I've heard the quietest cries come from the most followed accounts. I've danced with people who couldn't look up from their own reflection, and somewhere along the way I realized I don't want to win by out faking the world. I want to free it. That's my purpose. Not to be the most put together, not to be the most boss, but to be real enough that people remember who they are underneath all the trying. To dance silly on my story, not for the views, but because some girl out there forgot she was allowed to laugh at herself and still be lovable. To speak about loneliness, not as a sob story, but as a truth most people are too afraid to name. To say, you can be brilliant, powerful, soft, messy, and open all at once. You don't need to shrink your truth to fit into someone else's template. Because the realest flex is being yourself in a world that profits from your performance. So yeah, maybe I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but at least I'm not trying to be a brand when I was born to be human. XOXO, LJ. Wow. Well, I guess now it's time to unpack that, guys. Social media era, hyper-individualism, hustle culture, this weird ingrained belief that isolation equates to success and high value. But I'm here to tell you guys that it was all just a lie from individuals who were powerful so that you don't become successful just like them. There's a completely different reality between authenticity and a curated vulnerability. Curated vulnerability is for those of you who want to appear woke or appear as if you know yourself much better than you do, when in reality, you are just so insecure and you're now projecting as a way to kind of overcompensate for those insecurities. They're just not even pretending to be perfect anymore. They're pretending to be relatable. Honestly, just being yourself is what is relatable, because being human and engaging in humanity is the one thing we all have in common. Having this whole concept of how emotional suppression is normal is crazy to me because we're not numb by accident. We are numb by design. We are choosing to be numb. Humans at our core, we were designed for bonding, for love, for compassion and empathy. We were designed for connection. And for many of people who live in America as well, they don't understand that our culture has this performative culture that really values things that are extremely shallow and, in my personal opinion, completely irrelevant to the real joy and purpose of life. But once you leave and you see other cultures, you realize that they value connection, love, family, friendship before they value finances. And when you grow up in a culture or a community that lives by those standards and expectations from a young age, you almost subconsciously learn about empathy and compassion by design. So what ends up happening is you have more healed individuals with more emotional intelligence guiding their way through lives with a much better capacity for self-regulation emotionally. But here, we avoid it. We train each other, teach each other that after somebody hurts you, you either have to hurt somebody first before they hurt you, or you shut down completely and give up on everything until you reach a certain point in which you really don't actually know what that is, but until you reach a certain point where you finally realize and allow yourself to just enjoy life. Okay, so I want you guys to really think about this after this first segment. So my prompt for you is, where in your life are you rewarded for performing pain instead of healing? Please send this to me in my DMs or in our group chat from my channel on my Instagram page. If you guys want to drop some comments in there too, I would love to hear what you guys are thinking about these things because it really means so much. It's an incredible honor to hear your opinions, your thoughts, and have you guys share your vulnerabilities with me. Everything you guys share with me will be anonymous unless you decide that you want me to share who you are. Everything that I share on here when having to do with other people will be 100% anonymous, just to maintain the authenticity of safety within my space. That leads us into segment 2, the myth of self-made. Guys, this segment is so very important. You don't even understand how important this is. Okay, I grew up financially well off, learning financial literacy at the same time that I learned how to walk. Okay, people who don't name their privileged teams or supports or systems are the ones who are successful. The psychological damages of being told you must do it alone in order to be worthy is how they benefit. These wealthy individuals who are saying, I'm a self-made billionaire, no, you are not. Not at all. You have teams, you have people, and one thing that a majority of people don't even understand is that a lot of these massive corporations and businesses are actually owned by multiple people and sometimes entities. A lot of people don't even know what angel investors are, which are investors who are able to invest money into projects, businesses, property in a way that makes them untouchable, quote unquote, on paper. This is something that truly does exist, truly does happen. The second that we are all by ourselves and all alone, they can get into our insecurities and use that as fuel to monetize, which they are already doing now. Think about every time these AI systems, even now as I talk right now, are picking up all these keywords from me so that they can figure out what type of content, what type of products to shoot my way in order to maintain myself on the app or to buy products. Okay, that means now they are curating an experience in order for me to be taken out of my reality and then consume what they want me to in order to come to a conclusion that they want in a way that's so subconscious I think that I'm actually coming up with the idea myself. And that is how scary these individuals move. They train you to believe that they're self-made, that you got to isolate in order to grind. They are lying to you. They are lying. They either had pre-existing wealth through family or through generational stuff, or they understood psychology, understood how to talk to people and build teams, went the educational route. These people who are extremely successful did not do this alone. They did not get that far alone. And not only that, but a lot of the most successful men in history, not just in America, but worldwide history, the one thing they had in common was a strong woman who is standing right behind him, okay? Because let's not forget here, it's the queen who puts the other king in checkmate. But they don't want to tell you that. Because capitalism, it's kind of like a role in glamorizing isolation. You know, the more they keep you isolated, the more they can profit off your insecurities. Just keep remembering that. Keep remembering that, because that's what they don't want you to know. That's not what they want you to know. They didn't get their power because they stayed in their room hustling and doing push-ups and going to the gym. No, they gained their power because of the fact that they actually went out to parties, but that weren't actually parties, but seminars, networking events, real things, putting themselves in places with real bosses, real influencers, not the ones you see online with a bunch of followers, but the ones who will change your actual life with one little snap of their fingers. They put themselves in those rooms because let's be real. All the most wealthiest men in the world, I don't know about you, but they are not attractive or fit to me. And that's why I'm saying I don't think hitting the gym all the time, dude, is going to make you a billionaire. I do encourage it for your own personal benefit, but let's not pretend that that is going to correlate directly to you winning in life. Just doesn't match. Here is what I want you guys to think about, okay? The pedestal they put you on is often the loneliest place in the room. There's been so many situations where I feel like I'm being praised. Sometimes as a model, especially, people are looking at me. They're like, oh my God, Lindsay, you're so beautiful. You're so gorgeous. They come up to me in the streets. They compliment my outfit, say I'm so pretty. I look like a Barbie. Yes, okay, awesome. But I am a real human being who has much more to me than just my exterior. And that is why I'm always saying, guys, in reality, I'm constantly feeling completely misunderstood. Unlike everybody else, I am being my complete authentic self when you guys interact with me online. And so for me, when I connect with you guys, it means everything to me. Sometimes the messages can make my entire week because they're just so incredibly like compassionate, deep, thoughtful, philosophical. And, you know, I just feel so grateful for that, because in my real day-to-day life, I couldn't feel more disconnected from the world around me. Many of you know that I grew up Quaker and Amish, so I was always in extremely tiny communities with people that I knew most likely my whole life. But we kind of have a certain way about going with things. And one of those ways is simplicity and also being very unplugged from the rest of society. So for me, I don't watch TV. I don't own one. I don't watch any streaming things. I watch YouTube every now and then. But a majority of the time, I spend my day making music, making content, trying to hang out with friends. You know, I'm very present in my real life. And so, you know, I try to go out, try to do all these things. But a lot of times people mostly recognize me for my appearance, for my style, for the things that for me are shallow. And then I get to come online where I express my heart and soul to all these, you know, thousands of strangers. And at this point, I'm starting to get over 500,000 views on my Instagram alone each month. So to imagine I'm getting 500,000 people who are now reading my authentic diary when most people wouldn't even let their parents read their diary, and my family follows me on Instagram. So just let that sink in for a minute while we go straight into segment 3. Loneliness in a crowded room, I think, is the most lonely you could possibly get, okay? I think we've all felt this before. When you're like going out doing something, but maybe you're so overwhelmed by your environment, or you're feeling so freaking anxious, girl, you're like, okay, well, I'm in this crowded room, but at the same time, I'm also really uncomfortable. The thing that people don't realize is just because you go out does not mean you're fueling your need for connection, okay? I know a lot of people, they like to go party it up, drink a lot on the weekends, but what you're craving is connection, not excitement. Those exciting things are just what you've ingrained into your head to believe is connection, because it's a perfect distraction for the life you actually aren't happy in. And instead of admitting that you're unhappy in the life that you've created, because you know that if you admitted it, you'd have to hold yourself accountable and then change the way you're doing things, which is hard. So instead, you come up with an excuse to self-sabotage your own life by coming up with excuses for distractions that will actually hold you back on your long-term growth. Now let's take a breath there, because I don't mean to come across as mean or rude, guys, okay? But I'm just calling it out as I see it when I'm walking around here in LA, okay? I see people all the time. They're going out, doing a thing, red carpet to red carpet, think they're living at large. But one thing is clear, they are drinking a lot and they are not truly happy. That inner light within them is extremely dim. And it's because they're craving connection, but going to all the wrong places to find it because they've been so ingrained and trained and brainwashed to believe that that's the only way and the only environments that they could find it, which is just completely untrue, by the way. So now we have this epidemic of invisible isolation where people are all pretending and acting apathetic about each other, how they don't care, because if they care, they could get their feelings hurt. But the irony in it is that by pretending you don't care, you still end up getting hurt in the exact way you were trying to avoid. And then because it happens like you didn't want it to happen, you use that as a justification to expect the same thing again, even though you are the one who caused the damage. I'm going to need you to wake up, okay? Because I'm trying to give you a wake-up call so that you can live your life and be happy. Because if you're living your life like this, you will never be happy. Because guess what? You are so insecure that you have forgotten how to love yourself. And so what happens? You love people how you love yourself. You don't love yourself, you find people who don't love you. You find yourself broken, you find people who are broken. You think that you need to be fixed, you find people that you feel need to be fixed. Okay, we attract our own reflection. So until you are ready to face those demons that have been hiding until the mirror came out, don't put yourself out there. Don't waste somebody else's time, heart, affection, love because of your own inability to wake up, take accountability, own their own insecurities and heal from the traumas instead of ignoring them, compartmentalizing them, acting like they don't exist and projecting them on to an innocent new person because somebody else that they don't even know hurt you. When people start to build these curated performances, or these curated personas online, then their identity becomes their output. And what I mean by that is it creates this big disconnect and dissonance between who they truly are and who the curated version of them are. And they curate these images to look like, their life is a highlight reel, which I'm not saying is wrong, but I'm just saying because they do that, their real life is not at all like that. They don't usually look like that. They don't usually speak like that. They're not as joyful as they act online because in reality, they're unhappy with the fact that they feel the need to hide behind a curated performance. But instead of admitting that and being themselves because they don't like who they are at the end of the day, they pretend like they are fine, keep themselves busy, acting like they're successful, performing confidence because at the end of the day, what else can you do if you don't have it? The only thing you can do if you're pushed onto a stage before you can even handle the spotlight is perform. Because what else do you have to do? You're standing there, there's lights, there's people watching you. What else do you have to do except perform? That's when I come in and I say, I walk off stage because we are the ones who dictate our own lives and futures. It's something that nobody can take away from us. You need to realize that nobody cares. Nobody actually cares about you. And I don't mean that in a cold way. I mean that in a liberating way. When you walk onto the street, if you do a silly dance in the middle of the, sidewalk, nobody's going to care. They may look at you like, okay, that's interesting, but nobody cares because people are all struggling. We all have issues. So live your life how you want. Play in the freaking rain. Dance under the sun. Do what you want. Don't keep following these weird structured belief systems because somebody shoved it down your throat and said it was the right thing to do. No, follow your heart. Be real. Be true to who you are. Because that's what we need in this world and that's what we need in this industry. And that is why I'm constantly telling people, everybody out there, please remember that you being yourself and being who you are is what makes this world a better place. And I stand by that. We see it all the time. We see so many people who are influential, who come across as perfectly fine, just to find out that behind the closed doors, there was some dark stuff going on. This is happening across all media forms. It doesn't even matter, just in general, because that is life. That is the reality of life, okay? People will pretend like they're fine when in reality, they are not. They're brokenhearted. They're sad. They're upset. They're insecure. I mean, I go to the freaking top model events in the world, all across the countries, not just America, but internationally. Okay. And every time I go in there, I listen to these above average, attracted individuals, and they're all upset, complaining about how their bodies aren't perfect. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are we that out of touch that even the most attractive people in the fucking world are gonna, oh, excuse me, I just cursed, but are we seriously going to pretend like that is normal and okay? We've gotten to a point where people who are literally deemed more than enough by society worldwide are now insecure over 1 to 2% body fat. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to call it like it is. That is absolutely crazy. And as Joe says, malarkey, because I don't understand that shit, okay? Ooh, and again, sorry about the cursing. If I curse 2 times, does that mean I'm no longer family friendly? And now here we are getting into segment 4, unbranding the self, okay? So basically what this talks about is reclaiming our personhood in a world that wants personas. You're not a niche, you're a soul. And you have to have the audacity of just being, choosing laughter, messiness, softness, embarrassment, with pride. There's just this quiet revolution when you just choose to have this joy without any agenda. So many people nowadays are used to these transactional friendships, transactional relationships where it's a give and take. I won't be with you, I won't spend time with you unless it benefits me. But even in the end, the second that you show up and you say, hey, well, actually, I'm showing up with no agenda and I'm providing you everything you're looking for, they freak out. Because when you show up with no agenda, you become a mirror to other people's insecurities. And unfortunately, not everybody else is prepared to look at themselves in the mirror. Because when they look at themselves in the mirror, they may not like what they see. And when you don't like what you see, you have to take accountability for the fact that you put yourself there. And that takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of reflection and internal healing to be able to fully look at yourself and reflect on the things you don't like about yourself and then actually implement the change that you desire. You have to remind yourself that you are not a product, you are a person. And that's why if you constantly are only finding value in performance, it becomes so dangerous to your mental health because you start to only equate your value with performance. You think if I'm not generating such and such, then I have no value. When in reality, you being who you are is enough. You don't need money in order to be valuable. You don't need fame in order to be valuable. You don't need to look perfect and beautiful and speak perfectly and be a certain culture or race or religion or sexuality or preference. None of that matters. Who you are as a human being is enough. And it won't be until you realize that you will truly learn how to live this life in a way that is happy, successful, and ever growing. Too many times, people are thinking that if they follow these molds that these celebrities and other influential individuals provide you online, that means you'll get there too, but you won't. Because it's a 1 percentile for a reason. They don't want to share their wealth. They don't want to because they distribute their wealth between the 1%. So they want to make sure that the 99% is trained to believe that the struggle is reality when it's not. Sometimes all you need is structure and strategy and knowledge and finances and specifically leverage and negotiation. But you can't negotiate if you don't know your own value. And that's why so many people end up holding themselves back from their true potential. Because once you devalue yourself, you make decisions that are not good. You make half-hearted decisions because your fear is telling you, oh, I'm not enough for the full plate. So I'm going to satisfy myself down to half a plate so I don't have to be scared of if I drop the whole thing and lose all my food, right? But the problem is you cannot become great without taking great risks. You have to bet on yourself every single day when you wake up, and betting on yourself means taking accountability for the parts of you that are weak, for the parts of you that are scared, for the parts of you that are uncomfortable. Because if you can't sit in your discomfort, you will never become the great. You never will. It's not possible. It's just not possible. There's so many men out there. They get fed this illusion that if they grind hard enough, they'll make it. If they do all these things hard enough, they'll make it. But that's not how it works. Just because you learn how to create discipline for yourself doesn't know that you know how to translate that in business. Just because you're creating a daily routine that's structured doesn't mean you know how to translate that into financial literacy.
Just because you have discipline and go wake up early, eat healthy, go to the gym at the same time every day doesn't mean that you have discipline in a relationship. Because while you were focusing in the gym all this time, the real men were learning about communication, negotiation, financial literacy, the importance of marriage, the importance of wealth, the importance of the feminine and masculine energy. Because I'm not somebody who discriminates against relationships. It can be a man, woman, whatever. But generally speaking, there tends to be one partner that falls more masculine and one partner that falls for more feminine. And most masculine individuals nowadays believe that they have to grind alone in order to be valuable to the eyes of others. And I'm so sorry to tell you this, but it couldn't be further from the truth. You need to wake up to the reality that you are holding yourself back because of your own fear. You feel like you are not worthy, therefore, you're making your life worthless. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to say anything, but it's what I have noticed. I see great men, super smart, handsome, got it. They could have the world type men, but they fall victim to this mold and they convince themselves that what they are doing is the right way to go. And then they believe that their stubbornness is discipline, when in reality, it's distraction. Health does not equate to wealth. The only people I know who would ever say that are broke or lying, because you can't make money in the gym. You can't. Even the guys who have the billions of dollars and all that stuff, you don't see them at the gym. You see them at the golf course. You see them at the golf course. Everybody knows. I mean, everybody in the 1 percentile at least knows that golf is traditionally where the business is done. These motherfuckers are not working out. So little Mr. Thumb bodybuilder guy over there, I'm sorry, but just because you made your first $1 million doesn't mean you're wealthy enough to go teaching other people how to become successful. $1 million is pocket change to those who are seriously successful. I mean, no offense, but it's just the truth. $1 million is like $1 nowadays in this economy. So don't go around teaching young men how to live a lifestyle that isn't truly successful. What you're doing is you're fueling your own ego. And you're fueling your ego while damaging others simultaneously. These big influencers, these big dudes, okay, sure, they might try to say they're self-made. I'm not going to name names here, but I know men right now with hundreds of thousands of followers who are homeless, and I still dated them. Because for me, money does not equate to value. They offered me love. They offered me happiness. They offered me care when I was sick. And because of that, they shared all their value. You know, we ended up breaking up for other, unrelated reasons. But this is just to say, don't judge a book by its cover. You can see the glitz and glam. But guess what, baby? They sell really good fake designer in Turkey. And people ship that shit in. And I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not trying to tell you guys that this is wrong. I'm just saying don't listen to what you see online. Don't listen to these influencers, these billionaires. Read books, learn your history. Because if you look at real history, all the greatest empires, all the greatest rulers, all the greatest historians worldwide had a partner behind them. And this is why I always say, man, it's the freaking queen who puts another king in checkmate in front of her king. That should tell you everything. Chess has been around for so long, man. This is one of the original games of all time. And even the game itself from many centuries ago says the same thing. That a queen is the one who puts the next king in its place. And, nowadays, everybody's got this hyper individualism, thinking that they're men, thinking that they're doing something, trying to become millionaires and billionaires, thinking that if they listen to their bros, it's going to work. But it's not. It's just not. It's not. You can't do it. And I'm not trying to say this to crush your ego. I'm trying to wake you up. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help our generation. I'm trying to wake up our entire generation. Because in America, they don't teach us this. I've lived all over the world, and I don't mean visited, guys. I mean I lived abroad for almost 4 years. I speak another language. I've traveled all over the world, and I didn't travel as a tourist or for business. I traveled there and became a local who immersed themselves into the culture. And I'm telling you, they've got it figured out when it comes to power and what leadership looks like. Our form of leadership is sadistic. It's like we enjoy being hurt by our leaders for some reason without realizing that we don't need to be doing life that way. We can exist. We can be powerful. We can lead without having to hurt each other and put each other down while also being alone. Because here's the thing, you big man over there thinking that grinding alone is the smart thing to do, you're wasting your own damn time in the morning because you got to cook, you got to clean, you got to make your own protein shakes. What if you had a traditional woman in your home? Your protein shake's already made for you by the time you wake up. Now you save all this time, go straight to the gym, come back home, you got a meal waiting for you, you can go straight into your business. This is what the traditional wealthy men do. This is what they do. That's why they're married. That's why they get into partnerships, because they recognize the value of partnership. You cannot do it alone. That's why they value family, because they want to pass down their wealth. Because what happens? Let's say Trump never had children. His money would have gone out to the public, and they would never have wanted that. Because the goal is to keep it within the 1 percentile. They don't want the 99% to have access to this. So they have children to carry on their legacy. This is what Americans do. It's our form of royalty. We live in a classist society, okay? And they're trying to differentiate the 99% between the 1% as much as possible. So the more you struggle, the more they lie to you, the more they push this reality into you, that individualism is the tool for success, that grinding equates to working out, waking up early, doing all these things, and you believe it, you're making it more difficult for you to achieve the very same dream that they themselves are living in. Wake up. When are you going to realize that every single man who is the most wealthiest person in the world is ugly as fuck and they are not fit? When are you going to wake up and realize that reality? Because I got all these gym bros out here trading Forex and doing things online thinking that they're building wealth when they're not. It's temporary. Because guess what, baby? The market crashes, you're screwed. All your money is digital, you're screwed. That's not what rich people do. That's not what they are doing. Sure, they may dabble around in Forex for fun, but they got portfolios on portfolios when it comes to investing. They're investing in safe capital and also risky investments, but they use a percentage-based budget, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are hearing me say right now and don't even know what this is, which is proving my point even further. Okay? They use a percentage-based budget, or at least that's what I do. I have 2 or 3 different investors' portfolios, and I invest in ETFs predominantly because they're more reliable and tend to have a more reliable ROI annually. And then I use a very small percentage of my overall portfolio investing in riskier things. Let's say 5% is for options trading, which everybody knows it's almost like gambling, but I find it kind of fun. And 5% of your overall portfolio is really pocket change, especially when you have a large one. So 5%, it's not going to knock me down if I make a few losses, you know? But the rest of that, then there's like a 10% that goes to stocks, because stocks, they can be reliable depending on the business that you're investing into, but they're not as reliable as ETFs. And for those of you who don't know what an ETF is, it's pretty much an index fund that has a bunch of stocks in one. And then there are individuals who monitor that fund. And whenever there's a specific stock that's going down, they trade it with a similar company or a similar stock that matches it, that's showing to have better, returns on investment at the time, which is why they are deemed much more safe, because you have your money being almost invested for you in a way. Again, there's a lot of nuances in there, but I'm hoping you guys get what I'm saying. And this is why I'm saying, guys, let's go into the next segment, which is the realist flex, okay? The realist flex is building a new metric of success. Because it's like, what if being real, not being liked, is the goal? We need emotional courage, not social approval. Too many people are living their lives for validation instead of for happiness, and then questioning themselves and questioning the world and getting upset with everything in their lives because they're not sure why they're unhappy. Well, it's because you've lost yourself while trying to impress others. It's a thing I see all the time. I see it every day. This is how people become jaded. Because you want to be seen and not edited. That is the deepest love story. One of my most recent experiences that I think is a perfect example for right now is I always force my friends to be kind of silly. And we had all gone out one day. It was some kind of a weekend. We were all excited about a pool party. After that, decided to go and chill at another thing. You know how it is here in LA. You bounce, 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 especially when you have VIP everywhere. It makes it super easy. You're just going straight into everything. So we were bouncing around, and in between bounces, my friend has a Tesla car. So I was like, okay, I see this Tesla car has a camera, like a back camera. And because I was just feeling silly at the time and we were all like waiting for someone, I was like, guys, let's get out of the car and like, can somebody record me dancing in their rear view, camera? And they were like, oh my God, yeah, that's so funny. And at first, some of my friends were afraid because I was like dancing silly, moving around. And, we were in the middle of like the street. And so there were like all these cars. It was the weekend, so it was packed. There's like tons of cars going back and forth. There's traffic. We're not causing traffic. We were in a place where we are not being obnoxious. We're doing our own thing, having fun. But this is just to say that it was a busy street, so a lot of people were seeing us. And my friend was afraid to let herself go, have fun, and be joyful. But when she saw me dancing, not caring about all the cars, and then laughing, smiling, and just having a good time, she started to join in. Because joy and happiness is contagious. If you want to live in a world that's more accepting, you need to accept yourself first so you can accept others as they are without expecting them to be perfect or expecting them to fit a box that you've put everybody in. We can't keep generalizing things because of our fears and insecurities. You got to accept that you can't control everything in your life. It's not possible. And when you try to do that, you literally hold back your own potential. And I see it all the time. You cannot be successful. You cannot get to your dreams without risking your ego, your pride, your intelligence. You need to destroy all that shit if you ever want to become successful. You have to. Especially for those of you who come from the streets or those of you who come from no money. If you're broke, I'm telling you, it's called broke boy mentality. It's a real thing. You guys don't grow up around money. You don't know how to handle finances. So you look at the big dogs. They're feeding you information that's false. And you're listening to that. And you're thinking that it's right because you don't come from success. So all you can do is dream about it and live vicariously through others because you've never experienced that life. So you get blinded by the lights. You get blinded by the following, by the parts of everything in their lifestyle that seems cool, while completely missing what creates that success. These individuals half the time are married. They just don't talk about it. What is the point of getting all this money? What is the point of getting all of this money if you have absolutely nobody to go home to? You seriously think that messing around with different women, different men all the time is going to make you happy? You think that being with men and women that you don't actually care about but are comfortable with because you don't have to fully emotionally invest is actually helping you long term? No. You're holding yourself back because you're afraid that you don't deserve the life that you are made for. Let's be real. I'll say it with my chest. I'll say it one more freaking time because I see my friends, my family, my peers. I see it all the time. You're holding back your true potential because of your fear of not being good enough for the life you deserve. Guys, I'm serious. Please listen to that over and over and over again. You're holding back your own potential by not believing that you are worthy of the life you deserve. It's just what keeps happening. This happens in relationships. This happens in professions. People convince themselves, well, it's not even people. It's these wealthier 1%als who don't talk about where they truly get their successes from. So the 99% tries to emulate what they say because, of course, that makes sense. If you want to be like someone else, you go to that someone else, ask them how they did it, and try to learn from them. That makes sense. That's logical. But what I'm trying to make people realize and wake up to is that the information they are taking in and consuming is false. It's not true. So now you got a bunch of broke people stuck in a broke people mentality. Okay? And then curious as to why they can't get out of their financial struggles. Why they can't get out of their financial struggles. Okay? One of the best ways I can explain this is just think about it. Okay, you go on Melrose Fairfax. You see all these pop-up shops that charge absurd amounts for like a piece of paper and call it a t-shirt. And, you know, all the people who are in line, I bet you absolutely anything, a majority of the people who are in line waiting for those clothes can't afford it. You know why I say that? Because most people with money pre-order that. They don't want to waste time standing in line. So instead of saving up for it to come out, they pre-order it because they can afford to. And I'm not trying to be petty. I'm trying to be real. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. People who have money, they understand that time is valuable. You won't catch them standing in lines. You won't catch them cooking their own meals. You won't catch them going to the gym. You just won't. Because they value their time and they understand the currency of each minute. Each minute spent with people or doing things that don't actually benefit you long term is you missing out on your true potential. You self-sabotaging genuine connections romantically, platonically, because you don't feel like you are good enough to have them right now is missing out on your true potential. You are literally taking the finish line and pushing it further and continuously running and asking yourself why the marathon isn't over yet. And it's like, babes, it's because you keep taking the finish line and throwing it further because you don't want to believe that you just finished the race in first place. So what are you doing? You're throwing the finish line further and further. And guess what? Guess what? By the third throw, you're so tired that you come back fifth place. You come back in fifth place because another dude, he passes the finish line, accepts the win. You, on the other hand, you don't. And then you try and mask it by saying, oh, well, I'm focusing on myself. I'm grinding. I'm building, whatever. That's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's your ego and your pride trying to convince you that what you are doing is okay when in actuality, you are self-sabotaging your own life. You're self-sabotaging your own happiness. You're self-sabotaging your own life. Because what others also don't realize is that when you are happy, when you are loved, when you feel safe, you come up with better ideas. You make better decisions. Your brain functions at a higher capacity. And what CEO doesn't want to function at their highest capacity? Seriously. This is why I get so upset and why I'm always trying to tell people to please listen to what I'm saying. All of you guys know, and I'm hoping, I'm going to set the record straight right now. I aspire to be the realest celebrity you will ever meet. Because I'm not going to gatekeep things. I'm not going to water myself down. I'm not going to fit into some stupid little box. I'm always going to be myself and stay genuine and stay authentic. And the reason I'm saying that is because I want you guys to understand that when I say these things, I'm not saying this because I want to have the most popular podcast on Spotify. I'm not saying this because I want to have a 15-second clip of my podcast go viral on TikTok. I'm saying this because I care about each one of your own happiness. I care. I genuinely care about seeing everybody live their happiest life. I'm like getting choked up right now because this means so much to me. I am a humanitarian at heart. I volunteer. I spend a lot of time helping, giving back, spending my money and my time to help those in need. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to go to these VIP events here in LA with multi-billionaires, multi-millionaires, most attractive people, most famous people in the world. And they have no gratitude, no happiness, no love. And then I go out into the streets of LA. I don't go to the homeless shelters. I go to the streets. Okay, I go to Skid Row, hand out stuff. I go to MacArthur Park every month and hand out stuff. I'm not going to these shelters because what they don't tell you is these shelters aren't safe. So now you have families and individuals who aren't even on drugs or drinkers or anything displaced because the system wasn't built for them. It wasn't built for any of us. It was built for the 1%. And so I want you guys to understand that this truly means so much to me. I truly believe that I was put on this earth to awaken everyone, bring us to a higher level of consciousness, and just remind people that you really are enough. You don't need to put on makeup to be beautiful. If you want to, that's fine. I'm not a makeup hater. Okay? Do whatever. But please just understand that you should accept who you are too. Because without the makeup, without the lashes, without everything, who you are is enough. You shouldn't need to feel pretty in order to feel valuable. Because guess what? If we were standing in a dark room, a pitch black room, money wouldn't matter, culture wouldn't matter, appearance wouldn't matter. The only thing that would matter would be kindness and feelings, because you have nothing else to rely on. And that right there is the core to life. But we spend so much time finding reasons to pick ourselves apart, finding ways to just discredit ourselves. And once you discredit yourself enough, you forget who you are. You forget the things you can accomplish. And you get so used to putting yourself down or being depressed or being in chaos that you make excuses. You make excuses for the chaos and call it comfort. And it pisses me the fuck off. I see good men, good women, good people who miss out on opportunities because of their fear and because of their inability to sit with discomfort or their inability to conquer their fears. So I guess one of the last things I'm going to leave you guys before I end this episode is I really invite you guys to just try and post something that's imperfect today and then tag me on Instagram, because I think we need to start this new trend of reality. You guys see me all the time. I post content with pimple patches on. I do rants in my PJs. I don't care. I really don't. I publish my authentic diary almost every single day. So at this point, I really don't care. All of my thoughts that I'm saying, they just come straight out. I don't even think about what I'm saying. I just say it. So I want to see you guys. I need you guys to just post something silly, post something real today. Tag me and I'll repost it. If you don't want me to repost it on my platform, then I'll respond, talk to you, and say thank you for showing up authentically on a platform that, is literally curated. So this is the last affirmation before the outro. And I just want to say, guys, you don't need to perform your pain. You don't need to prove your worth. Just be. That's enough. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sitting in the truth with me, raw, unfiltered, and real. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope you feel a little less alone, because this wasn't just about me speaking, it was about us remembering that behind every curated feed is a human being, behind every I'm fine is a story, and behind every performance is a person who just wants to feel safe enough to stop performing. So here's what I'll leave you with. You don't have to monetize your healing. You don't have to turn your pain into a TED Talk. You don't have to chase visibility to feel seen. You are allowed to exist without an audience. Let that sink in. You're allowed to cry without posting, to rest without explaining it, to start over without announcing it. The realest flex was never the aesthetic. It's the quiet decision to be honest when the world rewards the mask. It's staying soft in a culture that calls numbness cool. So maybe you won't go viral for being real, but you will be free. And freedom, that's the only legacy I care about leaving behind. So until next time, stay human, stay whole, and stay wildly, unapologetically you. This is LJ, signing off.